Black man stands up for Hell's Angel. What follows stuns the town. He stood there, fists clenched, heart pounding, as the waitress poured coffee for every table but skipped theirs again. The man sitting across from him, covered in tattoos and wearing a patched-up denim vest with the unmistakable Hell's Angel's insignia, tapped his empty mug once. He didn't make eye contact, didn't complain, just sat in silence, like he was used to being ignored or hated. Isaiah wasn't. "You skipped our table," Isaiah said, keeping his voice level but firm. The waitress, a thin woman with tired eyes and an American flag pin on her apron, didn't even flinch. "We reserve the right to refuse service." Isaiah leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Is it because of me, or because of him?" She glanced between them, then shrugged and walked away without a word. The diner went quiet. Customers had stopped eating, pretending not to stare. Some did. One man near the counter whispered something to another. Isaiah caught the word patch, then another. "Wise, he sit in with him." Isaiah exhaled slowly and stood up. He hadn't planned on making enemies this morning. He just wanted pancakes and coffee before heading to the hardware store. Instead, he found himself defending a man he barely knew, a man the whole town seemed to hate on sight. "We'll eat somewhere else," Isaiah said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Somewhere people still remember what decency looks like." The biker Brick moved to stand, but winced. His knee clearly gave him trouble. Isaiah offered his hand. Brick hesitated, then took it. The two of them walked out of the diner, together. Outside, the cold morning wind cut through Isaiah's hoodie. Brick lit a cigarette, his fingers trembling slightly. He didn't speak for a long moment. "You didn't have to do that," he said, his voice gravelly and low. Isaiah looked him straight in the eyes. "I didn't do it for you." Brick's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes shifted. "You're new here, huh?" "Moved in last month," Isaiah replied. "South Side, fixing up my uncle's old place." "You just made your life harder," Brick muttered. "This town don't forget." Isaiah looked around. A pickup truck drove slowly past, the driver glaring as they passed. "Maybe it needs a little shaking up." Brick exhaled, smoke through his nose. "You just shook a hornet's nest you don't even see." They drove in Brick's rusted truck, down a cracked back road that wound through thick pine trees. Silence filled the cab. Isaiah noticed a dent in the glove compartment. A taped photo of a girl, maybe in her teens, smiled from the dashboard. She had Brick's eyes. They pulled up to a rundown cabin that looked like it had lost a fight with time. Isaiah followed him onto the porch. That's when he saw it. A photograph, nailed to the door. Same girl, but this one wasn't smiling. "That your daughter?" Isaiah asked quietly. Brick lit another cigarette. There was a pause. "She died 6 months ago," he said. "They said suicide." "I don't buy it." Isaiah looked at him. "You think someone in town?" "I think a lot of people in town knew she was in trouble, and no one gave a damn. Not the cops, not the school, not the church folks who pretend they care." Brick opened the door and limped inside. Isaiah followed. The cabin was dimly lit. A worn couch, an ashtray full of cigarette butts, and shelves lined with dusty trophies. Motocross, some dating back decades. "She was smart," Brick said suddenly, as if trying to push the memory forward. "Wanted to be a vet, top of her class. Then, she changed, fast. Started skipping school, crying at night, bruises. I asked her, she said it was nothing." "You think someone hurt her?" "I know they did." Isaiah swallowed. "And they covered it up." Brick nodded. "And they think it died with her." Later that night, Isaiah was back home, lying on his half-assembled couch, when his phone buzzed. A text from Brick. "Someone was at my place. Truck's messed up. Come quick." Isaiah didn't hesitate. He jumped into his pickup and drove through the dark, winding roads back to the cabin. When he arrived, Brick was standing by his truck, its windshield smashed in. Red spray paint screamed across the hood. "Rat lover." Brick handed Isaiah a crumpled paper, found it taped to the door. Isaiah unfolded it. Neatly typed words stared back at him. "Some secrets die with the dead. Don't go digging, boy." Isaiah felt a chill crawl up his spine. He looked at Brick. "You were right. Someone's scared." Brick looked him dead in the eyes. "You sure you're ready for what this is going to bring?" Isaiah didn't answer right away, but he knew. This wasn't just about a suicide. This wasn't just about racism or hate or a town stuck in the past. This was about a girl who cried herself to sleep, a father who was too broken to be believed, and a secret someone had killed to bury. And now, Isaiah had just taken the first shovel of dirt off the truth. The warning beneath the dirt. Isaiah barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the words on that paper. Some secrets die with the dead. Don't go digging, boy. But that only made him more determined to dig. The next morning, he went back to Brick's place. The old biker was already outside, sitting on a rickety wooden chair with a shotgun across his lap. The windshield on his truck still shattered, red paint still screaming across the hood. He hadn't even tried to clean it off. "They've been watching," Brick said, without looking up. "Saw a white SUV roll past twice after you left. Slowed down each time." Isaiah looked toward the woods. "Anyone you recognize?" "No plates, tinted windows." Isaiah stepped onto the porch. "We need to start somewhere. If your daughter was hurt, if someone covered it up, there has to be something left behind." Brick exhaled slowly. "Her name was Amber. She kept a journal. Used to write in it every night. I haven't found it since since she died." Isaiah's eyes narrowed. "You searched her room, tore it apart." "Nothing. Cops took some of her things, but they never gave a full list." That didn't sit right with Isaiah. "They took stuff for a suicide." Brick gave him a sideways glance. "Iron Creek cops don't do anything without reason or pressure." Later that day, Isaiah went into town alone. He stopped at the small library near the square. The building looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1960s, yellowed. Posters on the walls, creaky floors, and one librarian behind the desk who didn't even glance up when he entered. He pulled out old newspapers from 6 months ago, looked for any mention of Amber's death. Nothing. No obituary, no police report, no headline. It was like she'd never existed. That's when he noticed something odd. The week she died, there was an article about a fundraiser held at the mayor's house. A photo showed the mayor, his wife, and a teenage girl with curly hair and dark eyes, standing stiffly beside them. Isaiah leaned closer. He skewered. It was Amber, and she didn't look happy. He took a picture of the article with his phone and headed out, but not before the librarian finally looked up. Her eyes followed him coldly. Out in the parking lot, Isaiah didn't even notice the man leaning against his truck until he was 2 steps away. "Isaiah Brooks," the man said. Older, pale-skinned, clean-cut, not a cop, not a local. Something felt off. "You got the wrong guy," Isaiah replied without stopping. "No, I don't," the man said. "You're the one stirring up trouble that should stay buried." Isaiah turned slowly. "You threatening me?" The man gave a small smile. "No, just a friendly warning. Some folks in Iron Creek don't take kindly to strangers poking around." Isaiah clenched his jaw. "You one of them?" "I'm just the messenger," the man replied. "But if I were you, I'd stop digging before someone gets hurt." And with that, he walked away and disappeared into a dark blue sedan parked at the edge of the lot. Isaiah stood frozen for a moment. Then he got in his truck and drove straight to the town hall. Inside, he found the clerk's office. The young woman behind the desk looked up with a polite but cautious smile. "I'm looking for records," Isaiah said. "Police reports, autopsies, anything from 6 months ago. Around the time Amber Davidson died." The woman typed something into her computer, then frowned. "I don't see anything listed under that name. She lived just outside of town. Her father's name is Brick." The woman flinched at the name. "Oh, him." Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "Something wrong?" She hesitated, then said, "I think you should talk to Sheriff Mullen. He handled that case personally." That made Isaiah pause. "Sheriff himself?" She nodded. "He doesn't like people digging up old pain, especially not that one." Isaiah drove back to Brick's cabin as the sun began to set. The sky was orange and gray, clouds stretching over the trees like bruises. Brick was still on the porch, same spot, same shotgun. Isaiah showed him the photo from the newspaper. Brick took a long look, and his hand began to tremble. "That's my girl, but she never told me she went to the mayor's house. She hated them." Isaiah sat down beside him. "And now she's gone, and they're acting like she never existed." Brick was quiet for a long time, then said, "There's something I didn't tell you." Isaiah waited. "Amber came to me the night before she died. She was crying. Said she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Said she was scared. Said someone told her to keep quiet, or they'd ruin her." Isaiah's chest tightened. "What did she see?" Brick looked at him with haunted eyes. She never said, just hugged me ... and left. Isaiah stood up. Then we need to find that journal. It's the only chance we have. That night, while Brick distracted the sheriff with a fake call, Isaiah broke into the police evidence locker. He wasn't a criminal, but sometimes the truth demands dirty hands. He snuck in through the back, using a copied key Brick had gotten years ago when he worked construction on the building. Inside, the air was stale. Boxes stacked on metal shelves. He found the box labeled Davidson, opened it. Inside, clothes, phone, a necklace, and something wrapped in plastic, a small purple journal. Isaiah stuffed it into his coat, heart pounding. But as he turned to leave, he froze. Standing in the doorway was the same clean-cut man from the parking lot. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," the man said, stepping into the room, closing the door behind him. Secrets in the journal. The door clicked shut behind the man, locking Isaiah inside the evidence room. He didn't flinch, didn't move. His fingers gripped Amber's journal inside his coat pocket, his heartbeat thudding in his ears. "You think you're some kind of hero?" the man asked, stepping closer, digging up the past, poking around like you matter. Isaiah squared his shoulders. "I don't need to matter." But she did, and someone made sure her voice got silenced. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Amber Davidson was unstable. Her death was tragic but not criminal. "Don't let a sad story ruin your life, son." Isaiah's eyes narrowed. "You keep calling me son, but you don't want to see what happens when a man stops being polite." The man reached behind his back. Isaiah tensed until the man held up a folded piece of paper instead of a weapon. "Final warning," he said, tossing it onto a nearby table. Then he turned and walked out the way he came, the door clicking shut behind him. Isaiah waited, counted to 20, then left quickly and quietly through the back exit. Only once he was back in his truck with the doors locked did he let himself exhale. He didn't open the journal until he got back to Brick's. Brick sat on the porch, a single lamp glowing beside him. When Isaiah showed him the journal, Brick didn't speak for a long time. He ran his fingers over the cover like it was sacred. "She wrote in it every night," he murmured, "even when we fought." Together, they sat down in the cabin's small kitchen, flipping through the pages. The entry started innocent enough. Notes about school, drawings, thoughts on books she liked. Then it shifted. Isaiah read silently as the tone grew darker. "March 3rd, he came to our house again. Told me I had to keep quiet or my dad would go back to prison. I hate him. I hate them all. March 8th, I saw them in the woods. 3 men. They thought I was asleep in the truck, but I saw the bags. I heard what they said about the girl with the bruises." Isaiah paused. "What girl?" Brick shook his head slowly. "I don't know. She never told me." Isaiah flipped ahead. "March 11th, I tried to tell Principal Marsh. He told me I was making it up, that I was just acting out. Said if I didn't stop, I'd be suspended." Another entry. "March 15th, they threatened me again. Said they'd make it look like I overdosed. That they'd say I was crazy like my mom." Brick swallowed hard. Her mother wasn't crazy. She had postpartum depression. The town labeled her. Isaiah clenched the journal. She knew something. Something big. "March 17th, I told Kayla everything. She believes me. She said she'll help. She was going to write it all down and hide it. If anything happens to me, maybe someone will find it." Isaiah froze. "Who's Kayla?" Brick looked up slowly. She was Amber's best friend. Lived down near Mason's Creek. Still in town. Doubt it her family moved a few months after Amber died. Rumor was, they left overnight. Isaiah stood in weenie to find them. But just then, there was a loud bang outside. Both men ducked. Another bang. A bottle shattered against the side of the cabin, spilling flaming liquid across the wood. "Molotov!" Brick shouted. They scrambled. Isaiah grabbed a towel, smothered the fire. Brick cocked the shotgun and rushed out the door. Headlights sped off into the darkness. Tires squealed. A truck disappeared down the road. Isaiah stood on the porch, breathing hard, hands still shaking from the heat. Brick looked out into the woods. "They're trying to scare us, or burn this whole truth to the ground." Isaiah held up the journal. "Then we hold tighter." The next morning, Isaiah and Brick drove out toward Mason's Creek, searching for any record of Kayla's family. After hours of dead ends, an old gas station clerk remembered a girl named Kayla, said her family moved to Georgia, gave them the name of a church the father used to preach at. Isaiah made the call. After explaining who he was and what they were trying to uncover, the woman on the other end said quietly, "Kayla's not here. She changed her name, doesn't want to be found." "Please," Isaiah said. Her best friend died scared and silenced. She knew something. "We're not trying to harm her. We're trying to finish what Amber started." The woman paused, then said, "Write down this number, but be careful. If they know you're looking for her, they'll come faster." That evening, Isaiah called the number. A woman picked up. Her voice was shaky. "Kayla." Silence. Then, "Who is this?" "My name is Isaiah Brooks. I'm helping Brick. We found Amber's journal. You're in it." He expected her to hang up. She did in single quotes. T. Instead, her breath hitched. "Is it true? You really have it?" "Yes." A long pause. "I tried to tell people," she whispered. "No one listened. They made my dad resign. We were gone in 2 days." "What did Amber see?" More silence. Then, the girl, the one with the bruises. Her name was Lily. She was 12. She disappeared. They said she ran away. But I think Amber saw them 3 men burying something in the woods. Isaiah felt cold all over. "Where?" "There's a place," Kayla said. "Behind the old sawmill, near the hollowed tree." Brick, who'd been listening on speaker, stood up slowly. Isaiah's voice shook. "Kayla, will you meet us?" "No," she said quickly. "But I'll send you something. I have Amber's last letter. She gave it to me the day before she died. Told me to hide it if anything happened." "Send it," Isaiah said. "Please." Kayla hung up. Isaiah and Brick stood in silence. Then, Brick spoke. "We're going to the sawmill." Isaiah nodded, but just as he stepped outside, he noticed something strange. A piece of paper taped to the windshield of his truck. He tore it off. "For words, you dig, you die." The dirt beneath the hollow tree, the woods near the old sawmill, was silent, except for the soft crunch of leaves beneath Isaiah's boots. The trees stood tall and crooked, their branches twisting like fingers, reaching into the sky. A thick fog clung low to the ground, wrapping the forest in a quiet unease. Brick moved slowly beside him, shotgun in hand, scanning the dark between the trees. He hadn't said much since Kayla's call. He didn't need to. The weight of what they might find was already pressing down on both of them. They'd left the truck parked a half-mile back. Couldn't risk drawing attention. Isaiah held the flashlight. "Steady," she said behind the sawmill. "Look for a hollowed tree." Brick nodded. "That's it." Up ahead, half covered in moss and leaning slightly to the left, stood a thick oak with a hollowed-out trunk. They approached cautiously. Isaiah crouched and shined the light inside at first. Nothing. Then something glinted. He reached in and pulled out a small rusted tin box, sealed with duct tape and marked in faded Sharpie. "AD." Isaiah peeled the tape off slowly, careful not to damage anything inside. When the lid creaked open, they both stared. Inside was a folded letter, slightly yellowed with age, a pendant, and a torn piece of cloth that looked like it had blood on it. Brick took the pendant with trembling fingers. It was hers. "I gave her this when she turned 10. Isaiah unfolded the letter and began reading aloud. "If you're reading this, then something bad has happened to me. I hope I'm wrong. But if I'm not, I need you to tell the truth. Tell everyone. They did something terrible to Lily. She didn't run away. I saw them near the riverbed behind the mill. 3 men. One of them was wearing a sheriff's jacket. They had a shovel. Lily wasn't moving. I hid. I didn't want them to see me. But one of them looked straight into the trees. I don't think he saw me. But I knew I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. If I disappear, please, Kayla, tell my dad. Tell someone who will listen." Isaiah stopped. Brick's face had gone pale. "A sheriff's jacket," he muttered. "You think?" Isaiah answered slowly. "Mullen. Sheriff Mullen was friends with the mayor. And with Principal Marsh." Brick whispered. "It was them. It had to be." Isaiah picked up the cloth. "This isn't just proof. This is enough to open a murder investigation." Brick exhaled sharply. "If we can get someone outside the town to look at it, locals won't touch this." Isaiah nodded. "We drive to the next county in the morning. I know someone who works in investigative reporting." She listened, but just as he stood, the beam of his flashlight caught something in the dirt. He froze. Brick turned, half buried beneath leaves and damp earth, was a small shoe. Isaiah knelt down and brushed more dirt away. Then he saw it: tattered fabric, tangled hair, and bones, a shallow grave. They both stood still. Neither spoke. The silence was deafening. They left the woods fast. Isaiah snapped photos, dropped a GPS pin, and made sure the tin box was sealed tight in his backpack. By the time they reached the cabin, the fog had thickened. Brick triple-checked the locks. Isaiah sat by the kitchen table, trying to steady his breath. "This is it," he said. "This is the thing they didn't want anyone to find." Brick nodded slowly. "Amber died for this." Just then, a knock at the door. Both men tense. Brick raised his shotgun. "Who the hell?" Another knock. Slower, louder. Isaiah crept toward the window and peeked through the blinds. A teenage girl stood on the porch, soaking wet, barefoot, trembling. Isaiah's heart skipped. He opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" The girl's voice was hoarse. "You're the one asking about Amber, right?" Isaiah stepped out quickly and pulled her inside. "Who are you?" "My name's June. I was friends with Lily." Brick locked the door behind them. "How do you know about Amber?" June looked down. "Because she talked to me the day before she died. She told me she saw something horrible. She said she didn't think she'd make it through the week." Isaiah pulled out the journal. "Did she mention the mayor, the sheriff?" June's eyes filled with tears. "They used to come to Lily's house. Her mum was sick, real sick. Lily said they promised to take care of her, but they started hurting her. And then one day, Lily was gone." Isaiah felt something crack in his chest. June continued. "Amber tried to tell the police. She even went to the church, but nobody believed her." Brick was shaking now. "They didn't just ignore her. They silenced her." Isaiah sat down. "June, why now? Why come here tonight?" June reached into her hoodie and pulled out a USB stick. "This was in Lily's old room. Her mum left it behind when they moved. I watched it. It's horrible." Isaiah took the stick. "What's on it?" June whispered. "A video of Lily, crying, and a man behind her. I only saw part of his face, but..." She looked at them both. It was Sheriff Mullen. Brick slammed his fist on the table. "They filmed it." June nodded. "It's sick. You have to show someone." Isaiah stood. "We're not just showing someone, we're going public. News, internet, everything." Suddenly the power went out. The entire cabin plunged into darkness. Seconds later, headlights beamed through the trees. Then came the sound of tires. Multiple vehicles surrounding them. Brick raised the shotgun again. "They're here." Isaiah turned to June. "Get in the back room. Hide. Don't make a sound." June nodded and ran. Isaiah grabbed the USB stick, the journal, and the tin box. "If we don't make it, someone has to survive to tell the truth." Brick moved to the front window, just as a voice boomed from a megaphone outside. "Come out now, or we come in. You have 60 seconds. Isaiah's heart pounded. He looked at Brick. Brick looked back and said, "Let's give em hell. 1. Truth to traitors." The voice outside growled again. "You've got 30 seconds. Come out unarmed, and nobody gets hurt." Inside the cabin, Isaiah checked the USB drive in his pocket, gripping it like it was life itself. Brick stood in the dark with his shotgun raised, jaw locked tight, eyes scanning every shadow from the window. June crouched behind the bedroom door, barely breathing. Isaiah whispered, "There's more than one vehicle. We'll be outgunned." Brick didn't blink. "Doesn't mean we go quietly." Isaiah nodded toward the back. "We take the USB and journal, slip out the back and make a run for it. Nearest neighbor's a mile out." Brick hesitated. "They'll expect that." "I know," Isaiah replied. "That's why I'm staying." Brick turned to him. "No, you're the one who can prove everything. You've got the proof. But they'll kill you. They already killed my daughter, Isaiah. I'm not letting them take the truth too." Outside, doors slammed. Footsteps approached. Shadows moved through the beams of headlights. Brick turned to Isaiah and gripped his shoulder. "Go, now." Isaiah grabbed the tin box, the USB, and the journal, and slipped through the back kitchen window into the dark. He sprinted toward the trees as quietly as he could, branches scratching his arms and face, heart slamming in his chest. Then dash boom. A blast rang out from the front of the cabin. Then gunfire. Shouts, screaming. Isaiah dropped to the ground behind a tree. He looked back. Flames had begun licking the roof of Brick's cabin. Someone had thrown fire again. A final gunshot echoed, then silence. Isaiah nearly screamed, but he held it back. He turned and ran. An hour later, Isaiah collapsed onto the porch of a stranger's farmhouse, blood on his hands, ash on his clothes. The woman who answered the door took one look at him and rushed to help. He didn't give a full story, just said he was in danger, that a friend had been shot, and he needed to send something out before it was too late. She let him use her laptop. With trembling hands, Isaiah uploaded the video from the USB, scanned the journal pages, and attached them all to an email. He sent them to 5 addresses: a national investigative reporter he knew, 2 civil rights attorneys, a federal agent he'd once met at a community conference, and a local news tip line in the next county. Then he waited. His phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Unknown number. You really thought it would be that easy? Before he could react, a car screeched to a stop outside. Isaiah looked through the blinds and felt his chest cave in. Sheriff Mullen was standing outside the car, and beside him, holding a radio, was June. Isaiah couldn't believe what he was seeing. The same girl who cried, who handed him the USB, who had hidden behind that door, now calmly standing beside the sheriff, whispering something into his ear. The sheriff nodded, then raised his voice. Isaiah Brooks, come out. You're wanted for arson, theft, and interfering with an active investigation. Isaiah backed away from the window. The farmer's wife had vanished, probably scared for her own safety. He was alone. He ran to the back door, but a second squad car rolled onto the lawn. He was surrounded. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. An email reply from the journalist. Subject, received your files message. We're verifying. You're not alone. Hold on. Isaiah swallowed hard. Outside, the megaphone roared again. You've got 30 seconds, Brooks. Isaiah raised his hands and stepped out slowly, USB still in his pocket. Mullen stepped forward with 2 deputies. His smirk twisted like he'd already won. Where's the box? The sheriff asked. Isaiah stared him down. You burned it. You killed Brick. Is that what happened to Amber, too? Mullen's smile vanished. You think anyone's going to believe a criminal over me? I don't need them to believe me, Isaiah said. I just need them to see. Just then, tires screeched behind them. A black van rolled to a stop at the edge of the property. A woman with a press badge stepped out, holding a tablet playing a video. Amber's voice, Lily's face, Mullen's profile, cameras followed. The sheriff's face drained of color. You uploaded it, Isaiah whispered. Didn't you, Kayla? From behind the press van, a woman stepped out. Kayla, older, tougher, but unmistakably her. She looked straight at Mullen. I kept the original. You scared me then. I'm not scared now. Isaiah's knees nearly gave out. Kayla looked at him. June gave them your location, but she did it under threat. She called me the moment she got away. June stepped out of the other side of the van, eyes swollen but free. I'm sorry, she whispered. They made me choose. Mullen pulled his weapon, but 5 more cars pulled up behind him. Flashing lights. County sheriff. 2 federal agents. Journalists. Drop it. One of the agents shouted. Now. Mullen's gun hit the ground with a thud. Isaiah exhaled. It was over. Or so he thought. Back at the county station. Hours later, Isaiah sat in a quiet room. The agent interviewing him had finished recording his statement. Charges were being drawn up against Sheriff Mullen, Principal Marsh, and 2 others who were part of the town's inner circle. Lily's remains had been recovered. Her mother was flown in from out of state. Brick's death was ruled a homicide. The truth was finally being told. But Isaiah couldn't shake the grief. Brick had given his life. Amber had died for trying. As Isaiah walked outside into the morning sun, Kayla stood waiting. She handed him a folded letter. Amber wrote it for, you told me if anything ever happened to give it to the one who finally stood up. Isaiah unfolded it slowly. If you're reading this, then someone finally listened. Don't stop. Even if it hurts. Even if they laugh at you. You're stronger than you think. The truth matters. People like Lily matter. So do you. When the dust finally settles, 6 months later, the sign outside the diner read, under new ownership. All welcome. Isaiah stood on the sidewalk across the street, watching from behind his sunglasses. The old paint had been stripped away, the Confederate flags long gone, and inside, a new team of young servers buzzed around freshly polished tables. The town had changed, not overnight, not without resistance, but it had changed. The sheriff's trial had become national news. Video evidence, Amber's journal, Kayla's testimony, DNA from the grave near the sawmill. It was undeniable. Sheriff Mullen was convicted on 6 counts, including obstruction, abuse of power, and accessory to murder. Principal Marsh was charged for failing to report abuse, falsifying school records, and intimidating minors. The third man, The one who had once stood in Isaiah's path outside the library was a retired police chief. He vanished before his arrest warrant was served. They found his truck, deep in the forest, empty. No sign of him since, but the town no longer whispered about Amber like she was a troubled girl. Now, her name sat carved into a newly placed bench outside the public library, in memory of Amber Davidson. Your voice broke the silence, and below it, justice is not the end, it's the beginning. Isaiah opened a small non-profit called Amber's Light, dedicated to giving voice to young victims in small towns who too often go unheard. He didn't plan to stay in Iron Creek, but he did, because it wasn't enough to expose the truth. He had to plant new truth in its place. Kayla helped run the organization. June stayed, to finishing school, speaking at events, sharing her own pain to help others heal. But there were scars. Brick's funeral had drawn bikers from 5 states, men with Hell's Angels, patches, tattoos, hard eyes, and soft hands placed flowers on his grave. They called him brother. Isaiah had spoken at the funeral. He didn't remember half of what he said, only that when he looked at the crowd of bikers, students, journalists, and weeping strangers, he understood something deeper. Sometimes the people they warn you about are the ones who show up when it counts. One morning, Isaiah returned to the edge of the forest behind the old sawmill. The grave had been exhumed, of course, but the hollow tree still stood, quiet and steady, like it had been watching over the secret all along. He stood beneath it and pulled a folded note from his pocket. It wasn't Amber's this time. It was his. He read it aloud. To the ones who were ignored, to the ones who screamed and were told to whisper, to the ones who carried truth in trembling hands. This is your victory. Not because evil was punished, but because good kept going, even when it was alone. Then he placed it gently inside the hollow, right where Amber's box once sat, and walked away. That night, Isaiah met Kayla and June at the new diner. It was the first time they'd sat in that building since the day everything began. But this time, they weren't refused service. The waitress brought their food with a smile. I saw you on TV, she said, pouring coffee. What you did, it mattered. Isaiah gave a quiet nod. Still does. As they ate, June looked out the window. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't said anything that day? Isaiah leaned back. Yeah, lot. And he stared into his coffee for a long second, then said, then Amber would still be a rumor. Lily would still be forgotten. And this town would still be hiding monsters in daylight. June blinked back tears. I'm glad you stayed, Kayla added. So am I. The 3 of them sat in quiet peace for the first time in a long while. Not because the pain was gone, but because the truth had survived it. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived, handwritten. No return address. Isaiah opened it carefully. It read, You don't know me, but I'm from a town like yours. My niece went missing last year. They said she ran away, but I know better. I saw your story. I saw what you did. Thank you. You gave me hope. You made me believe someone might listen. Someone might care. I'm going to fight too, because of you. Tears welled in Isaiah's eyes. He folded the letter slowly, placing it next to Amber's journal on his bookshelf. It reminded him of something Amber once wrote. Sometimes, the loudest thing a person can do, is keep going. In the end, Isaiah didn't become a hero. He became something harder. A witness, a fighter, a man who stood up for someone the world told him to fear, and uncovered the very rot hiding behind the people others told him to trust. He learned that bravery doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes, it looks like a trembling voice, a quiet journal, a child with a secret too heavy for her shoulders, and a stranger who decided he wouldn't sit quietly anymore. The lesson: sometimes, standing up for someone else becomes the moment you discover who you are, and sometimes, justice doesn't come to those who shout the loudest, but to those who never stop whispering the truth.